So anyway, this whole vaccination thing, it was the left dogpiling on Republicans. They're anti-science. They're benighted. They are these cloistered, homeschooling, Cro-Magnon 19th century families. And you notice you haven't heard much about that last day or so. You know why? Because they've discovered that the heart of the anti-vaccination movement is in the liberal community. It is liberals who are the leading anti-vaxxers in the country. And I'm not saying anything one way or another about vaccinations good, vaccinations bad. We vaccinated our kids. That's the choice that we made. The point here is that liberals thought they had conservatives dead to rights. This just shows you how anti-science they are, how ignorant they are, how uneducated they are. And then they discovered, like here's a story from right-wing news, the highest rates of non-vaccinated U.S. school children are in Marin County. Now, Marin County is one of the richest counties. It's in Northern California. So the highest rates of unvaccinated kids are in places like Newport Beach, Santa Monica, Marin County. This is where all of the educated, the enlightened, the elites, the ones who claim that they're the smartest people in the room, they're the ones that are all about science. You and me, we're living in the dark ages. We're still living in caves, cooking our meat over wood fire. But they discovered that half of the children that attend schools in Marin County, that's got a median income of $90,000. Half of the kids in some of the schools in Marin County are unvaccinated. So the media has gotten real by the end of the 14th century, this is a quote, only tiny remnants of Christianity remained here and there in the East and North Africa, having been almost completely wiped out by Muslim persecution. Christianity became a European faith. You ever wonder why Christianity is centered in Europe instead of in the Middle East where it started? Because Europe was the only continent where it was not destroyed. In other words, the armies of Allah, the armies of Muhammad, they destroyed Christianity. They destroyed Christians everywhere they went. They destroyed churches. They destroyed sacred sites. They raped women. They plundered. They pillaged. And finally, the Christian nations of Europe said, look, we've got to do something about this. Our holy places are being completely savaged. Christians are being persecuted. Christians are being murdered. Christians are having their intestines tied to these stakes and forced to walk around and around and around. Here's what one of the Christian leaders at the time said. Many of God's churches have been violated. They have ruined the altars with filth and defilement. They have circumcised Christians and smeared the blood on the altars or poured into baptismal fonts. It amused them to kill Christians by opening up their bellies, drawing out the end of their intestines, which they then tied to a stake. Then they flogged their victims, made them walk around and around the stake until their intestines had spilled out and they fell dead on the ground. What shall I say, he goes on, about the abominable rape of women? On this subject, it may be worse to speak than to remain silent. And this is how he finishes this chapter on the Crusades. The Crusades were not unprovoked. They were not the first round of European colonialism. They were not conducted for land, loot, or converts. The Crusaders were not barbarians who victimized the cultivated Muslims. The Crusades were not a blot on the history of Christianity. No apologies are required. Focal Point AFR Talk.